The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, residents of Easton. This is Bill Ames, the co-host of the Film Connection. We are now in our 22nd year, and we like to bring shows to our viewers that deal with the subject of film production, film content, people who are related to creating films and media and whatever, who have come from Easton, preferably, but we certainly have included many others too. My co-host is here, the Barbara Walters of Easton, Priscilla Almquist Olsen. So Priscilla, we'll kick it over to you to introduce Mike, and he can introduce his colleague there.
Okay, thank you. How is that, a good
That's
impression?
good, that's good. You're getting better every year.
Mike Noone, welcome. You are an Eastonite in respect to your winning in the Hockomock Film Festival several times as a Canton High School student under the direction of Ed McDonough. I believe that's correct. So, and we have interviewed you previously in the studio, but now you are in India and you are producing a documentary with your friend and lead actor, Manjeet. Would you like to introduce him?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Yes, so I've been out in India for 3 months this year so far, working on a documentary featuring this beautiful man right here, Manjeet Sarkar. He is a very well-known comedian, stand-up comedian in India. He's done 4 national tours and he's begun to internationally tour. We've been together to Vancouver and Oslo, Norway to do some test screenings on this film that we're creating, and we're very excited to be here to talk about it today.
Okay.
So tell us a bit about the project. A little bit about Manjeet. Yeah, you have told us about him, but why don't you and Manjeet have a little session telling us about the project in detail, and then we can go from there.
First of all, namaste. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very happy and privileged to be here. This is a project which is a mix of stand-up comedy special and a documentary. The idea had come to me 2 years back, and I had started working on it, and I didn't have a proper team back then. Till now, I don't have. My team is me and Mike. We both make a best team in the world. I got to know about Mike through my manager, and we started working on it last January. So the entire film is about comedy and the reality behind it. So whatever the joke I do on stage, I basically do anecdotes, and all the jokes has reality. So when I talk about it on stage, it's funny, but when it is not on stage and the reality, the inside of that joke is not mostly funny. So how do we show the both? Like there are parts where I'm talking about a certain things on stage, which is funny and people are laughing, and right after that we are talking about the same topic, but no jokes included, just the reality of it. Mike, you wanna add something?
Yeah, definitely. So to provide a little more context, Manjeet is from one of the lowest castes, which is the social system that's been out here in India for millennia. It's actually the longest form of discrimination. It was outlawed by the government in the 40s or 50s, I believe, but a lot of the practices, like any country which outlaws social discrimination, the practices kind of remain ingrained in the society a lot. So Manjeet very humbly slid by the fact that he is the first member of his community to do a national tour in this art form. There's about 10,000 comedians in the entirety of India, and probably 5 or 6 are from his community, which is Dalit, that community. So he is breaking barriers a lot. He's faced a lot of struggle growing up. not just struggle though. Like that's where the comedy comes in, is to kind of change the narrative. He had, when he brought this project up to me, he had said, you know, I've seen so many of these documentaries on my community, and they're all so sad, and they just want you to feel so much pity for them. Like, oh, look at these poor people at the bottom. Like, we should feel nothing but sympathy for them. And he's like, no, that's ridiculous. We're so much more than that. We're cool, we're funny, we enjoy life a lot. We have so many dynamics, so many colors in our beliefs and community, that somebody needs to come and take ownership of that and to present that to the world in a more realistic way. So that's essentially what this documentary is doing. And that's kind of what he means by taking certain situations which are tragic or not so funny off stage, and kind of reclaiming that narrative, flipping it and telling it in a creative way that's making the audience laugh. So like it's a very interesting documentary. You know, we're talking about really serious topics and then joking about them in the next slide. So that balance is kind of where we're like really pushing to meet each other creatively.
That's very interesting. Tell us, Manjeet, your first time people laughed at your jokes when you were like 10 years old or something like that. Did you know from an early age that you had this gift, or did you have to work on it?
Oh no, I never knew that stand-up comedy existed. So like when I was a kid, I tried to mimic people here and there. That was a coping mechanism, like to be a funny dude, so that people don't, kids don't bully you. So that was a coping mechanism. I did not know stand-up comedy existed as an art form. But I always wanted attention. I really liked attention. So and I didn't have serious talent for it. So that's why I became stand-up comedian. That's what I tell people. But like when I was in college, during my college days, I was watching a lot of YouTube videos. And during that YouTube videos, I had discovered, I was watching documentaries. I always loved watching documentaries because I love history. And while watching about civil rights movements, I got to know about Martin Luther King Jr. and I was reading about him. And while doing so, I saw a clip of Dave Chappelle, American stand-up comedian, and he was talking about MLK. And that clip intrigued me so much. I was mesmerized. I did not know that could be possible, that you can talk about your opinion, your thought, and claim something and make it funny also. So that was something that I saw that I started watching more and more comedy. I started watching Patrice O'Neill, Richard Pryor, all this American comedian. I resonated with them a lot. And then I thought I should start doing comedy. And like back in the days, I couldn't speak English. I started speaking English very late, I guess to one year back. I was not understanding almost everything, but I was Googling things, understanding the words, and learning at the same time. And that's how I got introduced to comedy. And then I thought I should give it a try.
So do you do imitations of people talking? Do you get into imitating voices and things like that?
No, I'm very bad at it. I can do it, but it would be very bad. I don't do it. But yeah.
Well,
I used to try when I was a kid.
I used to do, I had a great imitation of John Wayne.
Really?
You know, hi, you guys. But I found if you just listen to him talk over and over again about a 1-minute clip, that's all you have to do is listen to it about 30 times, and you can sort of do it. But a lot of the storytellers, which is a form of humor, right, telling stories, how do you make that distinction between sort of a jokey thing and a telling a story thing?
So anecdotes are a couple of, they are different. Like the emotions of each anecdotes are different. There are anecdotes which are happy, like a story about happy thing, story about a certain emotion like sad. And how do you make funny? If it is sad, then you process it before telling it to the crowd. You process it. If it is something very personal, you process it within yourself. You get comfortable with it before you make the audience uncomfortable and make the story funny at the same time. So you write it down, you become comfortable with the story, and then you see where is the irony. If the irony is there in any sentence, which is would be there, and the relatability of the audiences and the humor in it. So, and if there is any chance of putting absurdity into it, that would also bring humor to it.
Yeah, well, it's I took a course in college on telling stories. Maybe, have I said this before in this show?
No.
Okay, well. But they made the point, I told a story at the Cambridge, it was Lesley College, and I told the story at Saturday night. They have 6 to 7 is when the beginner storytellers come in. And so you get a chance to tell your story. And then at 7 is when the real professionals, the people who actually get paid for these things. Unbelievable. That's where I learned about the imitating voices and being able to recreate conversations using two voices imitation. But I asked them, and they said that, and obviously everybody knows this, but to tell a story, you really have to have told it 20, 30, 40 times before you can get a sense of where the audience is doing it. So you don't even have to think about you're conscious of the audience a lot more.
Yeah, so story doing storytelling in art form in stand-up comedy is I believe one of the hardest part, because you don't know how will they react. So best way to do it is open mic, a lot of open mic where like small crowd, so you go and you try a lot of time. So before doing this special which I'm touring right now, I had to perform this special at least 200 times in front of a crowd. In bits, I had must have performed for years now, and that gives a lot of help in it. And also, we do a formula called sandwich. So when we go to a stage, we have jokes that we know which will work, which are tried and tested, and we know that audience will laugh at it. We put those jokes in the top and at the last, and the jokes we are not that comfortable or not really sure that whether this audience will laugh at this joke or not, we put it in the middle. So we know that if this joke doesn't do well, then we have a savior. We can save the show with that last minute of bit. So that's how we can get to practice also, and they get to have a good show too.
Well, one of the biggest shows on Netflix in the United States is the Amazing Mrs. Maisel.
Yes.
And it is about a comedian, this woman. I've only watched 3 shows so far. But
I've watched the whole series.
she's a comedian all the way through, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So you really get a sense of things, and it's a lot of sort of self-deprecating humor, making fun of herself
Right.
and all the other people. But I'm just thinking about, and she gets in trouble with the police because she uses bad language, right? Mm-hmm. The police come in and arrest her. This is like, I think it's set in the 50s or something, so
right.
It's not current day. But how do I phrase this? I mean, you know what we mean by F-bombs and things like that? I mean, in America, it's just anything goes, But in India, you have to be very careful about your choice of words. Obviously, with certain audiences you do, but in general.
Not really. So Indian stand-up comedy is very young. The industry is very young. It's like 12 years into comedy. So and the entire comedy scene is inspired by American stand-up comedy. It's totally inspired by it. Well, so our reference were directly in American stand-up comedians. So
you're in trouble.
Whatever they did, we just try to follow that. So F-bombs are very, very normal. You get to hear the Indian version of F-bombs also in this set. So it's not something that they are very opposed of. The things that you can't talk about is politics. Politics is something people do talk, but still it is a touchy topic. People get offended, especially the thing I talk about. I do talk about caste, which is again not that welcome topic in India. People get very offended, they get defensive, and on top of it, this is something which is they've never experienced it before, because they never expected a Dalit guy on stage with a mic. That it's not the it's just insecurity, and it's not the thing that you should not talk about. It is the condition they have, that how can a person from certain community or background which we consider as low get to share a stage with our people. So that is the idea, is the part which plays a brutal thing here, not the jokes. So they don't have the had mostly problem with the jokes. They have problem with the idea that a kid from this background can do jokes.
Right. Well, I think the old, getting back to the show that we're talking about here about Comedian in America, one of the episodes is about the fact that her husband, who is a stand-up comedian, wannabe stand-up comedian, and because he's got a day job, but the big epiphanal moment is when his wife figures out that he's stolen material from other comedians, and he doesn't have any of his own material, and he gets outed at some point. So, I mean, in every profession you share ideas and things like that. So there's no shame in doing it. But I mean, because you got to attribute this. So, what's it like in India? I mean, do you guys sit around, bounce the jokes off each other and things like that, your fellow comedians, before you get on the stage? What kind of chemistry do you create to come up with this sort of humor? Because it's pretty hard sitting alone at your desk trying to come up with a joke, I would think.
Oh yeah, it's pretty much similar to what American comedy industry is. So it's almost the similar. So you see all the comedians going to comedy club every evening in the green room. They would be roasting each other. They would take a dig at each other. They would make fun of each other. They would talk about comedy all the time. It's about what is the newest special you watched? How do we write this joke better? I had a new thought. Let's jam together. We go on stage. If somebody sucks, they come back on a green room. Then we point it out. You did really bad, and you should not do it. And people make fun of them. It's pretty similar to what American comedians does, because the concept is something that is inspired. But when it comes to the material being stolen, in India especially, the comedy industry is very strict in a way. If somebody get caught stealing material, they will be banned from each and every venue. They won't be able to perform ever in the industry, because we take that thing very seriously. That because for us, jokes are our babies, So like we treat them. This is our everything. To come up with one joke, it takes a lot of time, and we take pride in it. So if somebody steals that, then that's a big deal. We do ban them.
Wow, how about that, Priscilla?
Well, yeah. Now I have a question, Manjeet. Do you get any pushback from people in the supposed upper castes who object to the fact that you have become so popular, that you're so funny, that audiences are really enjoying your art? Do you get pushback?
Yeah, I do. I mean, this was from the day one, and I expected it from. And like people be asking, like my friend would, they ask me, how do you feel about it? I'm like, this is not the first time it is happening. I've been dealing with this thing from my childhood, so this is not something very new to me. And I knew this will happen, because the first 2-3 people from my community have to take the bullet for the upcoming generation to not to. Like somebody has to normalize it. And I believe everyone from my community, uh, doesn't matter which art form they go to, the first person or the first and second person has to take those bullets, because they have never experienced it. I do get a lot of backlash, and I continuously I do it. But there are people who are nice to me. But
do you have any safety concerns
uh,
yourself?
I think that's where my art comes. When I was amateur, I did jokes which directly offended people, and that was the problem. I think the way I write jokes, I try to write jokes in a way that the people are getting the message, and also I'm not naming any community. So if somebody had to get offended, they will get offended, but I won't give them enough meet for them to file a police complaint against me.
Okay, and Mike, what about yours? Are there any safety concerns that you have as a producer and director? Do you get any outside threats or communications that aren't so lovely?
No, I'm very careful about who I talk to about what the full scope of the documentary is about. At least in terms of the comic scene, like we went and interviewed 10 to 15 comedians very openly about what we're talking about, identity and comedy and the art form, how to weave your personality into the jokes and whatnot. So I've never felt personally in danger from anybody out here. I don't know how people are gonna feel when the movie drops and it's like an hour and 15 minutes of a very taboo topic. I've definitely gotten that vibe that this is a very people don't feel comfortable talking about this a lot out here. This particular, topic. So awkwardness is all I faced. I can't say I've ever felt threatened or like I would face violence at this stage.
So, Mike, what are your plans for distributing the film? I'm sure you're going to be distributing it in India, but you certainly wanted to come to Europe and the States and around the world. So, do you have any concrete plans in that regard?
Yeah, so the next step once we complete this project is we're gonna take it on a film festival tour, and a screening tour. So a lot of universities and organizations, there's a lot of Indians in the world. So every country has Indian populations that love. We've already been to a few of them in Canada, as I mentioned, and Norway. So there is an existing audience for us internationally. We're going to be using that as an excuse to travel as well, to tour this, spread it around, and then once I hopefully get into some festivals and win, get some laurels for the project. That'll give us a great leverage for streaming platforms and to do some in distribution deals with different places because it is internationally difficult. A lot of times the contract for distribution or streaming is regional based. So there'll be a whole, even if Netflix wanted to reach out, there'd be a whole India Netflix, a US Netflix, a European Netflix, etc. So we leave that to the manager, to our producers, so we don't have to work too hard on the legal aspect of things. But that's the plan for now.
Well, Mike, the film festivals in America have multiplied. I mean, there are more film festivals in more places than there were even 2 or 3 years ago. So you have quite a pick. Do you have any major ones in particular that you're aiming for?
Yeah, so we are very, very proud of this work. So we're gonna shoot for the top right away and see what they say. You know,
Sundance?
yeah, that was the first word that was gonna come out of my mouth, Sundance. Yeah, so we've actually even been looking into like grants from them or something because this really closely aligns with their, whole message and purpose and what they like to support too. So um, Sundance number one. After that, it's places in like Los Angeles. Manjeet has never been to the U.S., so we would love to use the film festival circuit as an opportunity to hit a bunch of different locations, um, just to get around and see the country.
And would that include from Majid a few comic
Gigs.
what?
Gigs.
Gigs.
Yeah, I want to do a world tour. I was in world tour. I mean, till now I have performed in three international shows. The first time I left India and I went to a different country was when I performed for the United Nations. That happened last year, and that opened my eyes that how the international audience are like they need interesting stories more than Indian audience because Indian audience has lot of interesting stories, but I believe that international audience are lacking interesting from the stories. They have funny, but they are lacking interesting. So I really wanted to do world tour. We did perform in the York Theatre in Vancouver. We had a great show. We did perform in Oslo. So right now the plan is right after the movie, we do a world tour with the movie and a show. Wherever we screen a movie, I should have a show there too.
Okay, are we going to see some clips, Mike?
Yeah. Just,
Yes, I was just about to ask to transition into some of those. We have a whole section we had sent called Mike Noone and Manjeet Sarkar touring the world. So those would be a perfect if you want to run something from that, and then we can talk about what that was and the experience there. Because it's been a blast for me as well to be able to get to see some of these countries. Yeah, so this is us in Vancouver, Canada. We were there for about a week to do the screening and the show. Manjeet had a massive show in Vancouver, which was a huge success. And we screened it as well, the documentary. And these screenings, I can't stress this enough, were so far below the quality that we felt we wanted to be sharing because it's a working draft and a working document. But it was really, really empowering for us to hear from the audience when we told them after the fact that this is a test screening, we have a lot of work to do. They said what work. That seemed like a perfectly good, finished, completed project.
Yeah,
So,
it was really good. Like I after coming back to India, I have received a physical letter from a Chinese lady who had attended the screening, and she wrote a big letter how much she loved the movie. So that was very beautiful.
I'll skip this. Yeah, so this was now in Norway. We went, we gave a talk, a Q&A after the fact. The venue that we performed in or that we screened in actually filled its capacity. It had never reached this many people before. So they had to start bringing in chairs from other like venues from the back closets and stuff. So that was a huge success. And this was really important because this was a mixed crowd. There were a lot of Indians there, Indian expats, but there was also a lot of Europeans who lacked the Indian context. And that's one of my main jobs on this documentary is to make it understandable to an international audience. So we were able to get that feedback of, does this make sense? Are they following? Are they understanding, these jokes, this background and all that? So that was very much like affirming as well.
so we have a clip there.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Hello,
We're
dosto.
showing
This
that,
is
I
Manjeet
guess.
Sarkar,
Okay.
and this is my co-director,
Yes.
Mike Noone Sarkar.
Yeah, we have
And
a
we are
so
here
this is us
in
just goofing
Oslo,
around in
Norway.
Oslo, Norway.
is a beautiful
Yes.
country, but it is not right now because we are
beautiful
here.
place.
And I'm
Neither
not
of us
saying
had been
I'm
there
the one
before,
who's
and
taking
it's
away the
like
beauty, but I'm so
one of the
beautiful
most.
that
I mean,
the country
we were
looks
both
little
shocked
less
every
beautiful.
day
And over to my
to be in such a
good
beautiful
friend,
location.
Mike Sarkar. Yeah, it was amazing.
I don't even
amazing
remember
trip
what
so far.
we were
We
saying
had
here. It's just
150 plus
probably some
people at our
silly,
screening. Everybody
silly
loved
stuff.
it. We had big
So it looks like it's in the
performance
wintertime.
by
You got
Manjeet after the fact, a little bit of
heavy
stand
coats
up. We
on
had a
there.
Q&A after the fact.
Yes, this
We got to
was
talk to
in
people from film festivals.
March, I believe,
Spring.
March
We
or
got to talk
April
to people
this
from
year.
film festivals. We got to meet with some producers.
So it wasn't
It's been
too,
unbelievable.
definitely
Each
cold. We were
new
also had
city
climbed
that
up
we
on
go
top
to,
of a big
we get
hill,
more
mountain
and
type
more
of
attention.
deal. So
We get bigger,
it was
bigger,
windy.
better.
And this is
We
us
ran into,
promoting the documentary
Mike's
essentially.
college best friend, and he was playing. He's a rock star now. He's playing with Eliza Fox, and we got the access as a guest because we're cool like that. We guest placed, and then we went behind the stage. Like I am also a performer, but like we went some other performers backstage, which was cooler by the way. They had drinks.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Huge shout out Miles, Solo, Elijah. They killed it in concert. They got us on the guest list. Hold on, I gotta explain this. I saw Miles posted on Instagram that he was in Denmark. So I hit him up like, yo bro, I'm in Norway. I'm in Oslo. Let me know if you're around. I'm here till Tuesday. This man said, I'm in Oslo. I'm performing in 30 minutes. I'm a mile away from you. Pull up, you're on the guest list now. So of course I hit up Malini and Manjeet, said get your asses up out of bed. We're going to a concert right now. Backstage passes. Unreal.
That's what it is. Oslo has
Beautiful.
been unreal. Like, yes, untouchable baby. Dhanyavad. I normally don't talk with this much bass. I just I'm trying to sound intellectual in front of some dumb audience. I just need to try. If I just speak, I am already intellectual, because it's not I am intellectual. It's like you are so dumb that whatever I say, I sound intellectual. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
And then my job is to make him look really good standing next to him.
Yeah, I remember you,
Yeah, we had
Mike's,
fun, though.
at the end of this video, Mike goes, we are getting bigger,
This
bigger
one I
and
mean,
better, better every
I'm
day.
doing
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah, yeah, it's because you learn as you go, right? I mean, every journey is a gift because you have to respond to different people in different circumstances and different languages and all that. Mike, tell us a little bit about how you enter. The people at home might not know about how you enter a film festival. Say you want to enter 20 film festivals. Obviously you deal with the internet and
Oh, yes. So basically, it is far easier than people think. At this point, I have accolades from I think over 20 film festivals internationally. Filmfreeway.com. That is the hub that you just make one account. You can add multiple projects to this account, and then submit right through there. So a lot of them will cost money between like $10, $25 for the mid-range ones. Some high end might be as much as $75. So it can add up pretty quickly. But if you put together a strong project that you're proud of, add it onto Film Freeway and start submitting it. In fact, last time I was in India, I had received a notification from one of the films that I had submitted a year prior. I didn't even know it was for an Indian-based film festival, that I had been accepted and won Best PSA. So when I was here in January, I extended my whole stay by 2 weeks so that I could go to Kolkata and attend that.
well, they have
Yeah.
one of the predecessor here, ECAT, started was it the 1 Minute Film Festival? I forget. Adam, you would know. Film Spring, but how long was that? 1 minute?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
1 minute then. It was.
But it was a 1 minute thing. And I watched some of those. It's tough to make. How would you mean, you got to fire your best shot, obviously, but if you put in too much, yeah. So how would you do a 1 minute? You guys ever think about that as a promo? Do a 1 minute film?
Yeah. If you're gonna do 1 minute, like you said, you have to really squeeze the story in. I find when I'm doing a restricted time project, to start with the very beginning, start with the very end, and then work your way into the middle, and try and do it that way so that you get your ending and beginning. And then the skill comes in of just figuring out how to connect those two so that when you watch it, you can't tell where that beginning to end like breaks. It's smooth right through. And even in larger projects like this documentary, you have a lot of sub stories within it that you have to constantly keep making in short form. So that'd be my biggest recommendation for that.
And plus, there's the whole thing about there's two elements, right? Plot and character. So in a short film, you have to focus heavily on the character, because what's unspoken and all that sort of stuff is so. It's like those Swedish films, right? Priscilla in the '60s, sort of moody, mood things, and they were famous because I think Fellini, he wasn't much on the chatty dialogue.
Yeah.
But he sure liked this sort of symbolic. What was it, Seventh Seal? Remember that one?
That was by Bergman, yeah.
That was a cheerful movie, that's for sure. So.
Oh, yeah. I saw that when I was a student at the University of Stockholm.
Did you? Yeah.
Because that was in like 62, 63, something like that.
That was some apocalyptic. We're getting off the subject here, but.
Oh, yeah.
But anyhow, plot versus character, that's always an interesting subject, right, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
absolutely,
you got to develop characters because otherwise the plot can get too complicated, right? If you're trying to.
Well, I think Manjeet fills that quality perfectly. He is the character.
But he creates characters, right? And that's why people, because there's not a real plot to what you do, Manjeet, right? I mean, it's all about the people and the people identifying with the people you're sort of talking about and that sort of stuff.
But also, Mike, Manjeet's character comes through too. His personality, his hopes, his dreams, what he envisions for himself and for India, and you know, social, the social scene, how to improve people's situations and so forth. I mean, obviously, he comes through as a very sympathetic and passionate character. I'm sure you're bringing that out, Mike, in your documentary.
Yeah, that's the easiest job that I have. All that, like, when it comes to the scenes with Manjeet, I just have to basically point the camera and click record and hold it steady. And he does magic every time. So that's the easiest part. Like you mentioned about the plot, making it all tie together and connect that story. Because this is from his childhood all the way up through his, transition from the village to the city, to the, like, dealing with other comics, learning about the art form of comedy, and then developing that to help him process, deal, and share his experiences. So that plot is a lot easier to tell because he's such an amicable guy. He's such a easy to like character. So
Yeah.
it makes my job a lot easier.
Well, it's like we say in America, it's the American story, right? Immigrants come to America, work hard, hopefully succeed and have a family and have a nice career. That's the American story. And the other metaphor is that the streets are paved with gold in America, which is, sort of a laugh line.
Pothole filled gold.
Yeah, streets are paved with gold, but maybe not literally gold, but gold mentally, gold opportunities type of thing. That's sort of a form of gold in its own way. So, but can we talk about Bollywood a little bit here? Manjeet, you know about Bollywood a lot, right? Because you lived and breathed these guys. So we got a list of the 10 top Bollywood directors known for their. Here's a film. Can I just bounce a couple of films off you here to see if you've seen them?
Yeah, please.
How about Three Idiots? Have you seen that one?
Oh, yes, Three Idiots is directed by Rajkumar Irani. He's one of my favorite director. He has got a formula of making meaningful, insightful movies along with doing numbers too. So whenever any Indian director does any meaningful, insightful story kind of movie, they don't see commercial success. But this guy is the only person who has cracked it up, where he makes very insightful movies, which does insane amount of numbers as commercial. So his movies are very successful in India, outside of India, like in China and all these things, is very big. And that movie is one of my favorite because it talks about the education system and how one should not run behind success, but work on himself and all. It has a very beautiful story.
What's a catchy title? Three Idiots.
Yeah, it has three character. They call themselves idiots.
Yeah. Here's one here. Karan Johar, director of My Name is Khan. Is that a familiar one?
Yes. Today I was telling Mike to watch that movie. I've been pressurizing him to watch it. He said he will watch it when he goes back to Boston with his family. So My Name is Khan is one of my favorite movie again. Karan Johar is not a director that I adore that much. He's good. He's a very good, well-known director. But that movie is one of my favorite. But he is more of a commercial movie director, which my interest doesn't lies that much.
So is it a shoot 'em up type film, or is it a philosophical film, or what's the genre, as we'd say in America?
This movie is very good. I mean, this movie has a philosophical angle to it. My Name is Khan. The lead character is played by Shah Rukh Khan, which is our biggest superstar, and he plays somebody who is special, who is specially able person, and his life which gets affected after 9/11 in America.
Yeah, The first Indian film I ever saw was in Cambridge, of course, and it was about this family who'd taken their daughter up to Darjeeling because he was a wealthy guy, and the father wanted the daughter to marry one of his business associates who was a lot older, and you sort of saw the business associate, and you knew that this was the cover of the plot. So they're walking through the tea gardens of Darjeeling, and there are the Himalayas up in the background. It's very grabbing. And lo and behold, they run into this young man, of course, who's taking his grandfather up to the tea gardens in Darjeeling before he dies, because the father maybe it's his grandfather, I don't know. But obviously the guy doesn't have much time left. So there's sort of a chemistry, you could fill in the blanks, but it was a very moving film. And I think the takeaway was that the director wanted to do, and it's a very Sanjeet Roy or something like that.
Satyajit Ray.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, very famous guy. It's a very moving film because the takeaway was that in environments of great beauty, difficult decisions become easy, much easier. In other words, if you're going through this on the Red Line in Cambridge, during the rush hour, this is a subway, you're not going to come to an informed decision necessarily. But if you're at the tea gardens of Darjeeling or looking at El Capitan up at Yosemite National Park, the sort of the moral and who am I and all that sort of stuff becomes the power of nature.
And the tranquility and serenity.
Yeah, so it makes you as you're able to think, your mind is not overly noised. But so that was the first Indian movie, Bollywood movie I ever saw, and it was a big winner in the United States. That was Sanjay Ray, or was that his name? Or
Satyajit Ray is one of the most successful filmmaker, from not just India but from the world.
Yeah.
His film has won several Cannes. His first film was won the Cannes Film Festival and had like 10 minutes of standing ovation. Martin Scottish has given him shout out in Oscar. He has received lifetime achievement from the Academy Award. His movies are not just movies; it's like a institution from filmmaker. I had made Mike watch his first film, Pather Pachali, which is, I believe, the one film itself is an institution. Do you want to say something about the film, Mike?
Yeah, he showed me Pather Pachali right when I got out to India to give me some kind of context as to his background and where he came from. It was from like the 50s or 60s, this movie. I think 60s.
1955.
55. Yeah, so not only was the movie phenomenal, gave me a deeper context into like life in rural, impoverished India, but it also was very inspirational as a young filmmaker myself to then learn the background of Satyajit Ray making this film on his own. Like, he didn't cast traditional actors. He got people off the streets. He just put all this stuff together. He was director, cinematographer, editor. He did the music. He learned how to play an instrument just so that he could make the music for this film. So as somebody else who's doing a lot of multiple roles in a production, that was like hugely inspirational to me.
Okay, let's do another one here. How about a Bollywood movie, All That Breathes? Did you hear that one? Did you see that movie, All That Breathes?
Oh, no, I think I missed it. I did not hear about that.
How about Parched, 2016?
Oh, Panch, yeah, that's a
Tell us about that one.
Yeah, so Panch is a film which was not commercially successful, but it over the time it became very successful because of the story. Again, the director was Anurag Kashyap, is one of the best director we have in terms of making reality-based movies, where you see the dark side of the reality. So that was something very well written and seasoned actor. Those are the actors who are known for doing method acting and natural acting. So good actor, not because of their commercial background, but because of their artistic thing. So
Yeah.
Indian film has two kind of actors. One, because they can make numbers, but they're really not good of an actor.
Yeah.
They're good looking and they can make you numbers. And there are actors who are average looking, but they are one of the best actors you can find. So whenever a movie with the average looking but good actors make numbers, that is a win for the entire society, I believe, for the
Yeah.
artist community.
Because people will go to the movies. It says here that Parched takes you into a disturbing and thought-provoking territory, even
It
as it
is.
clearly intertwines the stories of three protagonists, all of whom have had a raw deal in life. Sounds pretty good. Plot.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. So Priscilla, you got any questions while I go through these papers here?
While you ponder. So tell me, Mike, what has been one of the biggest highlights for you during this journey with Manjeet and the journey of starting from the beginning? I mean, you've been on this journey for more than a year, right?
Yeah, so he actually just brought me onto this project in January itself. So I arrived on the New Year's. I was on the plane when the year changed. By far, the best part has been this most recent trip. He took me to his family. I got to stay with his mother, father, grandmother, brother, sisters, the whole community. It was absolutely amazing. The food was amazing. They're so kind. None of them spoke any English. I didn't speak any Hindi or their native language, Bengali, but I just the smiles and the laughter was all I needed to feel the love. Like they really treated me like I was one of their own family members. And even Manjeet, I've only known him for like 7 months now, but already he feels like my brother. So it's been an amazing, amazing journey.
So, Manjeet, how did you learn English? Obviously, you speak fluently, but at home you're speaking Hindi, right?
So thank you for that. I don't know that whether my English is fluent, but I would like to believe that. But yes, in my home I speak Bengali, which is my mother tongue, native tongue, and I lived in a place which is a tribal area, so I speak two tribal languages, and then I studied in an Odia medium school, which is another language in India. So I studied that language. Eventually, I learned Hindi, which is a famous language in India, and then while doing so, I could read English. I could understand 60 to 70% of it, but I could never speak it. It was very hard for me. I started speaking English, I believe, last year, but I could understand it. I started speaking it to people, though it was not right. I just kept on speaking it, and then I started dating somebody who did not speak any of my languages. So the only language, mutual language we have is English. So that also helped a lot. So that's how and also I started watching more and more English stand-up comedy. I watched a lot of Hollywood movies, English movies. That helped a lot. So those are the things I took.
So,
And Mike, talking to Mike about the film, I think the last few months
Right.
I improved my English a lot just by talking to him.
That would improve your English very fast.
yes,
Right.
and tell me, when you do your stand-ups gigs, do you do them in English and Hindi, depending on the audience?
Yes. So first few years I only spoke in Hindi. Though Hindi I had to learn. I did not know Hindi at all. That's not my language. So, but that's the popular language in India. So to do stand-up comedy in India, you have to either do it in English or to do it in Hindi. So I chose Hindi because I thought that would be easier. So I started doing it Hindi, and I learned that language. Did comedy for a while, and then I realized I wanted to be global. I want to uh, preach audience outside of India. So for that, I have to learn English as well. So I started doing jokes in English. So right now in my show, the jokes are like 60% English and the rest of is in Hindi, because I'm slowly evolving in English comedy. So when I went to Canada, I believe there were 40% Canadian audience who are not brown. So I had to translate all my jokes. I did like 60 minutes all English, and we still killed it. I thought maybe they will have a little bit problem, but somehow the show went so good. It was amazing. And like even in Oslo, they don't speak English. They have their own language. They little bit struggle with English like I do, but somehow I did my entire set in English, and they loved it. So I think it's just like the more I'm performing in English, the better it is getting, because the art of jokes I already know, the craft I already know. It's just the language and vocab that I have to catch on now.
Well, I must commend you because learning English or any other language as an adult is quite a difficult journey. So you have mastered it amazingly. Wouldn't you agree, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. He keeps saying he's not fluent fully, but he is. Like, he is fully.
Okay, I just heard the word evolving from his mouth. Now,
Yeah.
that is a word
Yeah.
most Americans would
Euphemism.
not be using.
It's a euphemism.
Yeah, right.
Get with it.
Okay.
I think that is an influence from British. So in India, our English is British English because they were colonizer. So the English we use is British English. So our dictionary is British. When they taught us in school also, there is one subject in English used to be one subject among all the other subject, and there the English they taught us was British English. I think that's why those words where I say evolving and like I say certain words, and Mike look at me and they said, "Bro, how do you say that? You don't speak English." Like I would never say this word. Like I had once said coriander, I guess, instead of cilantro, and he looked at me as if I said something very fancy.
Okay,
Well,
so
yeah.
Manjeet and Mike, we want to leave some time to hear some of Manjeet's stand-up comics and maybe some of your video clips. So
Maybe we should sign off now.
I think we should sign off now. Okay, we
Cool.
have 7.5 minutes left, so
Yeah, you guys did a great job. This is our best show ever, I would say.
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, wonderfully done.
Thank you so much.
And I didn't get to asking you a few of these other films here, which look interesting. But so maybe we can do it again at some point.
Sure, would love to do that.
You guys are in the film circuit and you're got a free hour in London or Ottawa. You know, you could dial us up because it's fun.
Well, okay, well, thank you so much, and it looks like you have a wonderful partnership, Manjeet and Mike. The two M's. Manjeet,
Yeah. And then,
we thank you so much for joining us today, and continued success, and hopefully Bill and I will get to the Sundance Festival and see you.
Absolutely. Thank you
Okay.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Student was killed only because he married a girl from the upper caste.
That man was allegedly kidnapped, beaten and forced to drink urine by miscreants in Rajasthan. The incident took place in 20...
You know, every 15 minutes a crime is committed against a Dalit.
It's so painful, no? To see a Dalit speaking up. I love it. I live for this moment.
They never did it like me, they'll never do it like me.
I am not scary.
Hello, hi, Mumbai.
My comedy is not scary. The idea of a Dalit with a microphone, that's scary to them.
It can be anything religious, caste, anything taboo, they just don't want to talk about it.
It's not complex, it's pretty simple. They don't talk about it because it questions their, authority.
আমরা যে কাস্টের লোক সেই কাস্ট লুকানো যাবে না কাস্ট ভগবানের দান না চারটে কাস্ট লোকেই বানাইছে
In India, whenever you talk about caste, you should be scared.
Oh, he'll get killed.
My only objective is to say whatever I want and in a way that I should not get into trouble too.
কত মানুষদের মরিছে জলের মধ্যে ডুবে ডুবে ধরেছি এত অত্যাচার করেছে
The tricky point is to make it funnier. Majority of the people don't like what you're saying anyway.
His perspective is what makes it funny. He makes it funny. That's not funny.
Funny comes before name, before surname. So if you're funny, then yeah, you're going through.
I used to think I'm superior, to be honest. जब अलग ग्लास में पानी दे रहे तू you suck, bro.
I do feel scared, yes. But what to do? I mean, I don't have any other stories to tell.
That's the best part of your comedy, how I've seen it. They gave you this life and they gave you this story, and now they are paying to listen to that story, and you will laugh at them.
I can see who was off of that show.
Take joke like you take all our lands. Please up.
I would like to present to you a fella untouchable. I am an untouchable.
Thank you.